What's happening, guys? Today's video, why you are not getting below 10% body fat. Now, if you're anything like me, we've all been in this situation where we've been on a prolonged calorie deficit and we've lost some weight, but we've not managed to really break past 10% body fat. Story time, this was me in Thailand last year, 2024. I actually spent 3 to 6 months running pretty much every other day, eating at 2,000 calories, give or take, and I just couldn't quite get below the point of 10% body fat, the point where I had vascularity, the point where I had solid abs. The definition was where it needs to be. I was kind of in this no man's land, the 12 to 14% body fat region, and it just seemed to plateau there. I couldn't get past it until January this year, where we got to around 6 to 7% body fat. Now, as you can see here, this was me pretty much at the end of my quote-unquote deficit when I came back from Thailand. This is kind of where I'd managed to get to, and I couldn't really get past this until I got to around here, 6 to 7% body fat. Now, the goal of this video is to make this pretty much the last video you actually need in order to understand what is required of you, what it actually takes, in 3 simple steps, 3 simple mistakes that I made, 3 simple mistakes that I see all my clients make when they come to me that we quickly rectify because we're good at our job, link in bio. And following this, you'll actually understand exactly what is required of you, and you will know exactly how to get below 10% body fat, how to get to 6 to 7% body fat, which then allows you to progress your physique in an off season in the calorie surplus. Now, the first mistake that I made, and pretty much everyone makes, don't lie to yourself here, is dropping your calories to 2K instantly. For some reason, we just think, fuck it, let's just drop our calories to 2,000. Now, one thing you need to understand about fat loss and being in a calorie deficit is metabolic adaptation. Very, very simply, your body likes to adapt. Therefore, you have to create a large enough runway for you to actually be losing weight. Now, if you drop to 2,000 calories and you're a taller guy and you're much heavier and you didn't need to do that, your body's just going to adapt to 2,000. So the only way for you to go now is 1,800, 1,600, and you're going to keep doing that, and a whole host of problems is going to occur. You're going to be demotivated, you're going to crave, so you're never actually going to adhere to that. Your training performance is going to go in the bin, which means you're not going to have enough energy, which means you're not going to burn as many calories. So all of this is a big, big mistake. Now, what you should do is very, very simply weigh yourself daily, right? Find what your rough maintenance calories are. Now, depending on who you are, for example, I'm a 5'8" individual who weighed around 74 kilograms, give or take, in this photo here. So it'd be fair to say that my maintenance with my level of activity was around 2,400 calories, 2,600, give or take. So you put the calories at 2,600 and you monitor the weight every single day alongside 10,000 steps. And if you're losing weight, you keep it there until you aren't losing weight. And then when you aren't losing weight, reduce it by 200 calories or so. That's the way to do it, and you want to do it slowly so you can protect yourself from any sort of metabolic adaptation and just kind of intercept anything that potentially gets in the way, if that makes sense. Dropping your calories to 2,000 instantly means you don't have that power. You have to go even lower, and that is going to cause a bunch of problems, as we've just spoke about. So make sure you are not doing that, okay? Now, the second point is not tracking daily and using inaccurate data. Now, this is probably the most important point. If you're not tracking your weight every single day, and when I say tracking your weight every single day, I mean first thing in the morning, fasted, after you've gone to a toilet as well. The amount of people who do not actually own a scale, I'm saying this because I did it, and just weigh themselves when they go to the gym, after they've eaten a few meals, after they've drunk a load of water, and then just do it give or take and chuck it in a notes app, never get any results. Why? Because you don't know if you're actually losing that much weight. Like, you have to understand fluctuations occur not only when you're consuming food and drinking water prior to actually weighing in, but just in general. For example, if you had a shit sleep, you're going to carry a bit more water. If you trained late at night the day before, you're going to be carrying a little bit more inflammation in the muscles, which is going to essentially fluctuate your weight. What you need to be doing is having daily readings that essentially contribute to a weekly trend, and then going off the weekly trend as your main data point. But the problem is people don't track this. They track once every single week on a Sunday or a Monday and never actually have any accurate data. So when they adapt the plan, when they drop the calories, they drop them for no reason. They don't actually understand what's actually happening. So that's the biggest mistake. Now, tracking once a week, as we said, and not daily, is inaccurate. It leads to poor decisions. But this whole standard of inaccuracy is what kills people. It's what gets people. They think it's okay to half-ass things and get sick results. Like that's not how it works. The standard of inaccuracy is holding you back. The fact that you think it's okay to just track your cereals, track your oats, but I'll chuck a little bit of milk in, or have your coffee, a little splash of milk wouldn't hurt, and cook your chicken and rice, but add some olive oil there. Sauces you can get away with, give or take, if you're having sriracha here and there, but taking a piss with perhaps Peronaise or Nando's sauce and just destroying it. Little things that change everything. That little beer, that little glass of wine here and there. This habit, this standard inaccuracy is what holds people back, and it's why you can't get below 10% body fat, because it doesn't happen by accident. It's not easy, but it is simple. You just need to be accurate. You need to track your weight daily, and you need to do everything by the book. And make sure you don't drop your calories to 2,000 instantly as well. If you do those two things, you will have a much better time. And finally, you don't know how or when to actually adapt. Now, it's done in this exact order because these are the mistakes I made in this exact order. And if you don't track daily, then you'll never know how to actually adapt your plan. So this is probably the most important one here. But we have to put this one first, because the biggest mistake people make is, come on, it doesn't take a genius to realize everyone who's watching this video probably thinks, 2,000 calories or 1,800 calories. The amount of people who say they're on a fat loss phase and they're not losing much fat, they're in a plateau, and I ask them, how many calories are you in? It's 1,800. It's in theory, if you played it right, at 1,800 calories, you'd be fucking shredded. I wanted to give you a little disclaimer. I never ever dropped below 2,400 calories on that. Fun fact. 2,400 calories. Reason why is because I did 45 minutes of cardio and I used that as a tool. The reason we pushed cardio as opposed to reducing my food is because my training performance was pretty good. My lifts were going up, everything was going well. We didn't want to destroy that, so essentially there was no reason to actually remove food. There was more reason to just up cardio, and that's another thing that you have to understand. If you're trying to actually build an elite transformation, if you're trying to get in the best shape possible, then it doesn't really make sense for you to remove all your food. You're just going to sacrifice muscle as a result. You're not going to want to train, you're not going to have that motivation. Testosterone is going to go in the bin. It's not a good way to do things. So this is really the most important one. After that, we then need to track for data. We then need to build the standard and the habit of actually being accurate with our tracking. And then once we do that, we need to know how to adapt, and most importantly, when to adapt. Because of the inaccurate data, what tends to happen is people overreact. They cut food and they add cardio. For example, they see a crazy fluctuation on a day to day and they don't understand it because they haven't got the prerequisite data. They haven't been tracking the trends. So they go, we lost a kilo yesterday. We must do something with the food, and then it's just ridiculous. It doesn't work, and that's what causes burnout. It's not understanding natural plateaus. It's not understanding any sort of accurate data here, so you can't make informed decisions to actually prevent those natural plateaus, and that's kind of what gets people. Now, this is why you are not getting there. Very, very simply, you're dropping your calories too low. You're not tracking your data. You're inaccurate. You don't know how and when to adapt. If you want to actually understand how to do this, it is very simple. I've made a lot of videos. I will give you a very, very brief breakdown. Essentially, you want to work out exactly kind of where you sit from a maintenance standpoint. Now, a lot of people think there's a specific number. The specific number is when you track your weight daily and it don't move. If you're eating a certain amount and the weight doesn't move, you've found your maintenance calories. Now, personally, what I would do is sit at those calories alongside 10,000 steps. You should be doing 10,000 steps every single day, no matter what phase you're in, and see how you get on. Now, when that just hits a standstill, I would recommend introducing cardio. Now, personally, I'd recommend introducing cardio every single day. It should become a prerequisite, just like brushing your teeth. It's the easiest way to do things. 25 minutes of cardio at zone 2 per day. Do that, and then rinse it until you're not losing much weight. Now, personally, I would aim for 0.5 to 1 kilogram per week. That would be the standard to go for, 0.5 to 1 kilogram per week. As soon as you fall below 0.5, it's time to make an adaptation. And the way I would do things is essentially think about either removing food or adding cardio. Now, your choice and rationale to remove food depends on how much food you're consuming. It depends on your initial body weight, where you actually started, and also how is your training performance. If your training performance is shit and you just really wanted to get as lean as possible, then perhaps you can remove more food. But if you're someone who wants to actually retain a lot of muscle and actually perform in a gym and really, really progress and do almost a bit of a body recomp, then it might make sense to obviously increase your cardio. And personally, what I'd recommend is just to do a bit of both. And that way, you're not just hammering your food down to sub 2,000 within week 3. You're actually just using cardio as a bit of a tool. And there are going to be often or not some weeks where you don't actually have to adapt anything. One thing that you will need to understand is that every single week you should be doing a check-in, either with yourself or a coach, with your photos and your weight reading. Now, this is pretty much how coaching works. This is exactly what we do. We get clients to come in and give us a review every single week. They send us fasted pictures in the morning from the front, side and back, as well as a fasted reading with 7 days of previous data plugged into the physique app. Come on. And then from there, we make informed decisions whether to cut food or essentially increase cardio, and have a look at a whole other host of data to actually help us with those decisions, such as how is appetite, how is energy levels, how is digestion, and putting everything together from a nutrition and training standpoint to actually make that easy. For me, it's easy and simple. I understand it. But for you, this may sound very confusing. So if you do want to know a little bit more, you can reach out in the link in my bio. You can send me a DM. You can watch a few of my other videos. But that's a pretty good display, kind of, a pretty good display of why you're not getting below 10% body fat. Those are the 3 reasons. There aren't many more, if I'm being honest with you. Those are the 3 main reasons. And I think if you've clicked on this video, you probably fall into one of those brackets. So if you do fall into one of those brackets, and you're still not below 10% body fat, and you'd like to, and you're listening to people who are saying, oh no, sub 10% body fat is sustainable and realistic as a coping mechanism. It is realistic. You're just not good enough yet. That's the fact. Because not many people are educating you. Not many people are putting out this sort of information, except yours truly. So you're welcome. Like, subscribe. Now you've watched this video, you should have a better understanding. But again, if you want to know a little bit more, reach out and watch the next few videos that I'm going to post. I'm going to keep getting more information out there to help you out. I will keep more active with these, more educational videos, as well as more lifestyle videos. After all, we are in a beautiful place. So that is all from me today. If you have any questions, please do let me know. Please drop them in the comments. If there's any videos that you'd like to see, please also do let me know. Other than that, I will see you on the next one. All from me. Peace out. Nice.